Yo! Welcome to the show, BroMob. We're your hosts, Chad and Brian. Today is Tuesday, September 10th, and week 1 of fantasy football and NFL football is over. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a doozy of a week with some crazy stuff that happened, some great fantasy performances, and some not so great fantasy performances out there. So, BroMob, we got a lot to talk about today. First, Brian, how you doing, man? How was your weekend? How'd fantasy go for you?
Absolutely crushing it. I'm winning in every single league that I'm in right now. That's not a joke. I'm the best. You're the worst. And that's all I have to say. I just, league of record, I have nearly doubled my opponent's score.
Yeah, league of record, I'm definitely walking away with a win here. However, not league of record, sorry, the Underground League, I'm walking away with a win. So, sorry there, buddy.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you on that one, too. I'm also probably going to walk off with a win. 132 points right now I'm looking at. I've had a really great week. Famous Seamus, I see you coming at me with that 108 right now. I think I got the win, but Watson's starting to scare me a bit.
Yeah, I need Watson to just throw me a bomb to Will Fuller for the league of record, just so, just please.
Yeah, well, the cool thing is so as we record right now, the Texans-Saints game is currently playing. I have it on the wall. I'm staring at the TV right now, watching it while we record. I have a TV playing this while we're in the studio here. But so if something big happens, I may jump up and ruin the whole show. But hopefully we have nothing more than just lackluster second half from Watson. But I don't know. He hit that touchdown. Looked a little hobbled.
Yeah, he's fine. He came back out instantly.
That's true. So
I need him to be good. I need some Fuller in my life. Big touchdown. Just give it to me.
I'm
be
rooting
screaming
for you with the Fuller
BroMob,
thing. I'll be even though it hurts me.
Yeah, BroMob, I'll be freaking out. So I might have to go on mute and run away. So we got too much to go about the show. So BroMob, today we're going over week 1 fantasy recap. We'll be going over our genius picks and our not so genius picks, but our dumb picks. The waiver review and our BroMob hold'ems. And then finally, we're going to be playing Keep Trade Cut at the end of the show. So, Brian, let's get into it. But first, be sure to follow along BroMob after the show by following us on Twitter and Instagram at FFBrosPodcast, and search that hashtag BroMob for all kinds of hints, tips, craziness, and so much more. Let's start the show. Fantasy Weekly Recap.
Oh.
Wow, what a week. But first, let's just start it off with the biggest wow. The Browns at Titans. Jesus. The Browns just didn't look like they're advertised. Mayfield looked flustered. He made some errant mistakes. Brian, are the Browns good or are they bad here?
Well, I think the other question is are the Titans good? So I mean,
right.
Look, that Titans team was a decent team last year. They barely missed the playoffs. I believe 9-7 they finished. Had a lot of games where they lost by just a few points. So I think the question is what team was really good or bad here? I don't know. I tend to think that the Titans are a pretty decent defense, and the Browns just were a victim of hype and got ahead of themselves. I think they'll get better as the year goes on, don't you?
Yeah, they're going to need to game script a little bit better. That coaching debut for Freddie Kitchens didn't look, not debut, but his first season debut didn't look too good. So, a little bit better play calling, a little less predictability should help that team out a lot. All right, Cowboys at Giants, Brian. Talking about a good offensive game script. Wow, Kellen Moore with his first game of his forever as offensive coordinator looked really good. That was polished off by Dak Prescott just going absolutely bonkers, saying, "Pay me, Jerry." And Zeke Elliott, he came back and split carries with Tony Pollard. Is this something we should worry about?
Yeah, no, definitely not. They said going into the game that he was going to be on a share count. I'm sorry, share count. Wow, snap count. I'm still
Share
got work
count.
on the brain. He's on a snap count, but yeah. So I think slowly you'll see Elliott be continually worked into the game script more and more, and Pollard will fade away. But you definitely want to own Pollard. You want your cuff. So I definitely think if you don't have him, go grab him off waivers. If he's not there, try to see if you can get him in a trade for virtually nothing. That's what I would be paying for him.
Yeah, he might be the most valuable cuff in fantasy football right now.
That's true, especially with that offensive line. Wow.
Agreed.
So Bears Packers, Chad. That was our Thursday night game. It's how we kicked off the season. Wow, what a snoozer. So any concerns about the Bears offense, their backfield? Obviously was split between all three running backs. Packers, a lot of offensive weapons, didn't really show up much. What are your concerns, if any?
So the game was really defensive, which we kind of figured would happen, but at the same time, not this much. What I'm seeing here is just some rust because neither team had their starters really playing during the offseason. So we saw some rust from Rodgers. We definitely saw rust from Mitch Trubisky and that offense. It should improve on both sides for the offense. What I'm really concerned about, like you just mentioned right at the beginning there, that timeshare in the backfield for the Bears. We were hoping for a lot more David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen and not so much of the Mike Davis that we saw. Man, he was out there for 2-minute drills. He was out there for third downs. He was taking up way too much playing time, and the Bears fan base was giving him some boos every time he was out there.
Yeah, I don't think it's time to bail yet, right? You want look. It was week one. Two tough defenses. I called Packers to be a sneaky defensive play this year, and it looks like that may be the case. Now the question is the Packers defense legit, or was it Mitch Trubisky? So more to find out as the weeks go on. Rams Panthers, Chad. So this was a good game. I watched this game a little bit. So Christian McCaffrey absolutely crushed it. 19 carries over 128
nasty.
yards. Or 128 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, then 80 yards through the air. He was unbelievable to start the season. Left off right where he picked up right where he left off last year. The question is on the other side of the ball. So the Rams, Gurley was clearly in a timeshare. What we feared going into this season. The crazy part is it wasn't with the person we thought, Henderson. It was with Brown. And so the question is what does this mean for Brown? What does this mean for Henderson?
I think it's exactly what we saw is that Brown's value is going up, his stock is rising, and Henderson's is dropping. Henderson was out there for some snaps on the passing downs, so just keep that in mind. He's a smaller back. He's a smaller guy. He's really good in the passing game, so he's going to get used there. But what we saw was pretty much a 50-50 split between Malcolm Brown and Todd Gurley. And actually, Gurley was used towards the end there a lot more than he was at the very beginning. So, and he started to look good. He started to put off some really efficient runs. So I think this is going to be a really strong backfield for the Rams. But the problem is you're going to be guessing about who's going to get that touchdown every week. So Malcolm Brown scored 2 touchdowns right off that right in this game and took him away from Gurley. So it's something to be noted.
Hey, just a quick update. Alvin Kamara just went nuts for a bunch of yards. Yeah, nasty.
Alvin! All right, Chiefs at Jags. The Chiefs are just the real deal, man. The Jags defense, of course, a really good defense, but Pat Mahomes was playing out there. He was playing games. As a matter of fact, at one point, he tried to attempt one of those no-look touchdown passes to Travis Kelce, who was wide open. It should have been a touchdown, but he completely missed. So he had a little bit too much fun out there. Who didn't have fun? Nick Foles. Broken collarbone, out for the season, possibly. They're saying that he should come back, but I don't see any need for it if they're not competitive. So, Brian, how badly does this hurt the Jaguars?
So I think the Jaguars are definitely hurt. Although Gardner Minshew, quarterback for the Jaguars, had the best season opener for I don't know if it was for a rookie or a first-time player or something like that in NFL history, I think I saw. 22 for 25, 275 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did throw a pick. Heck of a game. They did make a trade today for a quarterback, so I don't think it was anything notable. I think they're going to see who's the better rollout and then go from there. But yeah, it definitely hurts the Jags. It hurts their wide receivers. Probably a little bit of an upgrade for Leonard Fournette. Obviously, I would expect them to run the ball a little bit more now. So maybe that helps, but ultimately not good for Jags wideouts unless Gardner Minshew ends up being the next Tom Brady. But yeah, not good for the Jags at all.
Considering that they were pretty far behind early on in this game. Gardner Minshew was actually made some good production out of the wide receiver position on that team this week. There were 3 wide receivers, DJ Chark, Chris Conley, and Dede Westbrook, who all performed pretty well for you in fantasy football this week. So keep an eye on that. Just understand that they're not going to be that far behind too often.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing I wanted to add is the injury to Tyreek Hill. The word out right now is that obviously collarbone injury, a lot of collarbone injuries this week. Holy smokes.
A whole lot of them.
Yeah. So collarbone injury, don't know the expected timeline yet. The rumor is around 4 to 6 weeks. I heard is kind of the range. Could be more. As soon as we know more, we'll definitely get it out to you. But I would say huge upgrade for Watkins. Clearly 9 catches, almost 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had a beast week. Holy smokes.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous week. Should be an upgrade for Travis Kelce as well, who's going to get used a lot in that offense already.
Absolutely.
But should see a lot more production going forward. So let's move on. Ravens at Dolphins, or basically Ravens against a high school football team, because Lamar Jackson just made them look silly. And not just Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown's rookie debut. I mean, this whole team looked explosive, and the defense was just as good. The Dolphins couldn't do anything. They couldn't run. They couldn't pass. They couldn't even think. They couldn't eat. They couldn't smile. They couldn't sleep. They couldn't do anything. They got made fun of at home. It's too bad for them.
A lot of divorces filed today. Wives not wanting to even associate with their husbands. So, yeah, not good for the Dolphins. They looked like a dumpster fire. But my question is this Ravens really, really good, Chad, or Dolphins really, really bad?
A little bit of both. So the Ravens are definitely a very good team. Lamar Jackson is a much better passer than everybody thought he was. We saw the potential for his passing there, but the fact that he only ran the ball 3 times for 6 yards just lets you know that this team is for real in believing that he can pass the ball. The Dolphins, they're not a good team. We knew that coming into this. They had Ryan Fitzmagic at quarterback and Josh Rosen sitting right behind him, trying to grow as good of a mustache as him, but failing at that as well. So he's not a good quarterback, and he's not a good beard grower either. What we're not going to see some good stats out of is the fact that they're splitting that backfield between Kenyon Drake and Kalen Ballage. It's going to be ugly. If one of them goes down, it should improve the outlooks for them, but it just doesn't look very sexy for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, I'm with you. So moving on real quick before we do, Latavius Murray, 30-yard touchdown. Yeah. Hello, Mark Ingram 2.0 question mark? We'll find out. All right, Vikings, Falcons. So Dalvin Cook tore it up. That's all you really need to know here. I mean, look, at the end of the day, Kirk Cousins threw the ball 10 times. 10. Yeah. Not in a quarter, but in the entire game. And so Adam Thielen was the number 1 option at wideout. Not that that's anything to brag about. He got a touchdown, saved your day. The question here, Chad, is Diggs. Are you concerned about his... It's hard to guess, I suppose, because he threw the ball 10 times. So, yeah. Diggs got two catches in the game, I believe. Not anything notable. Are you concerned?
I am a little concerned. So he came into this game with a slight hamstring injury coming into it. So, of course, he was going to be a little hobbled and not used much. But we saw this last year when the Minnesota Vikings started to lean on the run a little bit more than they did at the beginning of the year. One of the wide receivers got hurt. Whether it was Diggs or Thielen in that game, it would kind of flip-flop between the two. But from what we saw in this game, 10 passes, almost the majority of those were sent over Thielen's way. Yeah. Thielen was constantly open. He's still one of those top threats in the team. I think we're going to see a lot of Thielen, and we're going to see a lot of Dalvin Cook this season. And Diggs is going to be very hit or miss.
Yeah, I'm with you. The other side of the ball is the Falcons' offense was super pass heavy. Obviously, Freeman, not much of what you'd want to see for a week 1 fantasy output, especially for a guy that had high draft capital coming into the season. Lots of fantasy. Here's what I see. This is an offense that's going to produce a lot of fantasy points this year. They're going to be very pass heavy, but I do think Freeman will come around. I just think the Vikings defense is legit. That's a good defense. So if you drafted Freeman, breathe a little bit, calm down. You don't don't start benching him. Like, relax. He should be fine. He didn't. There's no injuries. He should be okay. But yeah, other than that, I would say lots of points. Looked pretty good. All right, Bills Jets. So this was exactly what we thought it was, Chad. A boring defensive game. A lot of turnovers to start the game. Jets
Yeah,
defense. Did I call that or what? So
you did.
yeah, John Brown, clearly the number one wide receiver in Buffalo. He looked great.
He did.
And then the giant bullet point. Hey, Lev Bell's back, dude.
He back. He ringing the bell too. Lev Bell was used all over the field. He looked good in the rushing game. He looked good in the passing game. And that offensive line, not too bad. People thought it was going to be terrible. It held up for him, so it looked really good. The game, however, was not very good. Another game that was surprisingly good, though, the Redskins at Eagles. The Eagles' defense just kind of collapsed, and Case Keenum was able to really exploit some glaring holes that are in that defense. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry's the real deal. We saw it in the offseason. He was breaking people's ankles. Josh Norman looked like a chump against him, and he made this team look like a chump. Scary Terry looked really good. Darius Geis, or Mr. Miami Geis, didn't look so good, and isn't feeling too good either, is he?
Nope. So he's injured. Knee injury is the word out of Washington. And so, yeah, you definitely, if you drafted him, it's a tough break because this has kind of been his MO, right? An injured, plagued player. And so here we go again. The story of the day, though, is the return of Deshaun Jackson. What a absolutely insane start to the season for him. 8 catches, 154, 2 touchdowns. Looked like a perfect chemistry on the deep ball with him and Wentz.
Yeah, I agree. Wentz looked really good. I mean, he was throwing accurately. He started off a little rough in the game, but really quickly found his rhythm, was able to hit Djax, was able to get Alshon Jeffrey involved, even though he was covered by Josh Norman for most of the game. He didn't put up a great stat line with 49 yards and a touchdown, but he got those touchdowns to help you out. So just a quick little note on the Miami Geis injury here. You should be seeing some Adrian Peterson stepping in. So for everybody who might have dropped him, oops, right? Like now he's on the waivers, and now you got to fight for it to get him back because he's going to be the starting running back once again. So, all right, let's move on. Colts at Chargers. This was a much better offensive performance by the Colts than I was anticipating. We saw a lot of Marlon Mack, who looked incredible. The offensive line was great. 25 carries, 174 yards, and a touchdown. And Jacoby Brissett, not bad, man. 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, both of them to Mr. T.Y. Hilton, who doesn't look to have lost anything without Andrew Luck. But the talk of the game is the Chargers. No Melvin Gordon. Didn't matter. They're still a very good team. Keenan Allen, Brian, I owe you $5. It was a mistake of me. My bad. But yeah,
that's okay.
Good game.
Yeah, it was a good game. Austin Eckler absolutely ripped it up, and kind of jokingly, you look at it and you think to yourself, Gordon who? I mean, he was electric. 12 carries, 58 yards, a touchdown. Phillip Rivers had a great game. 25 completions on 34 attempts, over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Not a bad outing by him at all. So really impressed. Can't wait to see more. The next game here, 49ers at Buccaneers. This game was terrible. Absolutely terrible quarterback play. I'm convinced that no one can save Jameis Winston from being a terrible quarterback. He's just awful. The rushing attack was terrible, although Ronald Jones did look efficient when he had the ball. One thing that I did notice, Chad, I watched this game a little bit too, is George Kittle was heavily targeted by the 49ers by Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns that got called back in the game. So that's encouraging. I would say if you're a Kittle owner, even though he didn't really produce what you'd hope he probably would have produced, definitely going to be a lot of points coming for Kittle in the future. I saw a lot.
Hopkins TD. Anyway, so yeah,
Just
I
saw
agree.
that.
That George Kittle looked great. Nobody else really looked great though. Jameis Winston couldn't connect with anybody really. Mike Evans was hurt by it. Chris Godwin wasn't hurt. He got a touchdown out of it, but if he didn't, that would have been a terrible week for him as well. OJ Howard, for everybody who drafted him high, hold your head up high because he'll be fine. It's just a really poor week 1 there. Moving on, Lions at Cardinals. Man, the first 3 quarters of this game were frustrating, but then that last quarter of the game was possibly the most exciting football of the weekend. I'll be honest. Kyler Murray was able to take that team up, and you know what? Cliff Kingsbury's play calling got better too towards the end there. So what happened was they got better, and because of that, other players got better. DJ got some good points there. Fitz at the end. Kyler Murray, like I said, did really good. And the surprising one here, Keyshawn Johnson was targeted quite a bit on this team. Other than Fitz, like it was impressive.
Yeah, I agree. So the teams threw the ball a lot. I thought they could have both ran the ball a little bit more, especially the Lions. You know, you got Kerryon Johnson back there. Feed the guy the rock. You could have ate the clock. The Cardinals would have never had the time to come back. They looked like a mess for 3 quarters of the game. So I think that's on Patricia a little bit. For bad game calling. He should have pounded the rock to finish that game. T.J. Hawkinson, Kenny Golladay, Danny Amendola, all heavily used in the passing game, heavily targeted. Mighty Marv got targeted finally towards the end of the game and overtime, but they need to run the ball a little bit more. And then, Chad, we skipped over Bengals Seahawks real quick. I know we got to Lions Cardinals, but I wanted to talk about that game too. So Bengals Seahawks, Wilson to DK, that connection looks strong. Really shocked me. I thought in a game where you have the opportunity to pass the ball quite a bit, I thought for sure that Poppin Lockett would have been heavily targeted in this game. He had 1 catch for 44 yards. Thank God it was a touchdown. It really helped my team quite a bit because I started him in almost every league I have him in. So thank you for that. At least it saved a lot of my days. But really disappointed there. Chris Carson. Holy smokes. The guy got used a lot in the passing game. He had a receiving touchdown, 2 total touchdowns. What a game for him, huh?
Yeah, great game for him, but he was overshadowed by Mr. John Ross, who, I've said it before, all the guy does ever is catch touchdowns. And this is what he did again. He got 2 touchdowns and 158 yards receiving. John Ross looked good. And you know what? Without A.J. Green there, he should continue to look good. It wasn't the best looking offense, but man, did it. John Ross looked good.
Yeah, I agree completely. So,
all right, and the last game that we're going to mention here is the Steelers at Patriots game. And the Patriots looked like the Super Bowl champions that they are. And guess what? They're getting AB next week. This is ridiculous. They put up 33 points against the Steelers, made them look like chumps, and then they're going to get Antonio Brown on top of that all. So it's Tom Brady doesn't look a year over 30, 28. He's in his prime still. The guy's unbelievable. And the offense looked really good. Who didn't look good? Sony Michel. He was pretty much a non-factor, but they were up so high that the defense just started stacking the box because they knew that Sony Michel would be running up the middle. You know, I'm getting a little frustrated with Belichick whenever he uses Sony. It's very predictable, man. When he gets out there, they're going to run the ball. And then they bring James White out, and it's a passing down or running down. They've lost their predictability whenever they put Sony out there.
Yeah, it's exactly why I don't like owning Patriots backfields unless you have James White.
Yeah, true. And then the Steelers, not too much flashy to talk about here. Juju didn't have a good game, and neither did James Conner. James Conner missed 2 opportunities to have a touchdown, not because of him, just because of I would call it bad play calling whenever you're on the goal line and you're not rushing it up the middle with your great running back. So it's just confusing to me. I saw a lot of that this weekend, actually. Teams, instead of running it on the goal line, they're passing it. I saw it with the Cardinals, I saw it with the Steelers, and I saw it with the Cleveland Browns as well. There was just a lot of opportunities for touchdowns that just didn't happen because teams are getting too flashy.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, BroMob. Well, that's going to do it for our Week 1 fantasy recap. Let's move on to the next segment.
Genius, genius, genius!
All right, BroMob. So I'm gonna start this segment because obviously genius, right? But in all honesty, we had a lot of great picks this week. Hopefully you listened and were able to capitalize on some of those great sit suggestions, streaming suggestions, so forth. So we'll start it off. Chad's solid gold pick of the week. I'm impressed, Chad. Lamar Jackson. So you picked him. If you're a Key to the Title subscriber, you're on there. If you're not, definitely go over to keytothetitle.com. Get in there. There's weekly updates like this. But Lamar Jackson, 17 for 20, 324 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 3 carries for 6 yards. So the point here is he really didn't run the ball as much as everybody thought he would. What a pick, Chad. I got to give it to you.
Yeah, I called the top 2 performance out of him, and he didn't disappoint. So another pick that I had here was Mr. TJ Hawkinson, who, welcome to the NFL, Mr. Rookie there. 6 catches, 131 yards, and a tutty. Just welcome. The guy's a rig. He was catching, he was all over the field. He was almost unblockable. He looked really good.
He did. He absolutely did.
All right. Well, Brian, you didn't do too bad either. So this week's Brian's Golden Midas Touch Ironclad Locked and Loaded Stream of the Week. Brian, you chose New York Jets defense. Wow, what a great pick. We knew it was going to be a defensive slobber knocker, but you chose the right defense out of it all. 17 fantasy points for anybody who picked them up off of waivers and started them this week. So congrats and kudos there.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I don't just say this. I picked them up and started them in a lot of leagues too. And so in our league of record, Jets defense started this week. And so I also said I felt like Josh Allen had a chance to throw a pick 6 in this game, and sure enough, he did. So another pick out there that I kind of said would be a great streaming option this week was Dak Prescott. And I understand he's owned in the majority of leagues. So if you had him, hopefully you played him. 25 for 32, 405 passing yards, 4 tutties. What a game by Dak. Holy smokes. He looked great. I've been critical of Dak in his time as a Cowboys quarterback, and Chad, you and I are big boys fans, and I've said at times that I didn't think he was the answer long term. He put his foot in my mouth. Holy smokes. He also ran the ball 4 times for 4 yards. Not a big deal there, but just to add a notable note, a potable. We went through this last night. So
don't bring it up.
Yeah,
don't
my bad.
Puddle me.
So, but what a game. 400 yards, 4 tutties. Dak did his thing.
All right, well, that's our genius picks for the week. Let's move on to our not so smart picks.
You blew it!
All right, BroMob. Well, I'll start it off here with my first 2 picks. First one, I definitely thought Sammy Watkins, with Tyreek Hill being there, was going to be a bust, especially against that Jacksonville defense. And man, did he prove me wrong with a 9-catch, 198-yard, 3-touchdown performance. Oh my God.
Yeah,
are you kidding
dude.
me, Sammy Watkins? Tyreek Hill's gone. Sammy, is this the new you?
Is this you? Is this you?
Is it you? It looks like it might be him. So everybody who has Sammy Watkins, kudos.
Yeah.
And I've already mentioned my next one, Keenan Allen. BroMob, my bad. I thought for sure this would not be any good against a really good Colts defense. But man, he had 8 catches, 123 yards, and a touchdown, and I've lost $5 because of it. So thanks, Keenan.
And thank you, Chad. We appreciate your donation to the Brian Charity Foundation, where I take your money and I buy fun stuff that I like. So I'm going to also apologize, BroMob. I told you that you should feel comfortable streaming Jameis Winston, and I deserve a gut punch for that one. He is not a streaming option, nor should he be. I think there will be better opportunities. Somehow I feel like the 49ers might have a decent defense, or Winston's just really, really bad. But 7.1 fantasy points is not streaming material. That's not what we're looking for. And Winston, shame on you for even stepping foot on an NFL football field. You should retire. And then I also recommended that you start the Cowboys defense. And though I stand behind my recommendation because I do think that defense is legit, 1 fantasy point is not what I'm looking for. So
He can't own up.
Yeah, I
stand by it.
I stand by it, damn it. So Cowboys defense, you let me down. Thanks a lot. There just weren't a lot of things that create fantasy points, like the sacks and the turnovers and so forth. Dallas just kept the points low. So
yeah, it just wasn't. It wasn't a good game for them in terms of fantasy. Let's just say it like that. The defense did fine. It really did.
Yeah.
Made some really good plays if you watch the game. It's just not a good fantasy performance. Not many sacks. So no turnovers, really. So it's just not what you're looking for. So, BroMob, that was some of our dumb picks that we made this week. So we're terribly sorry, but at the same time, we're not.
Well,
Let's
and
move on.
Chad, Well, and Chad too, I would like to say, and if you make sure you get over to fantasyfootballbros.com, we're going to have a running tally and a accuracy percentage breakdown of our picks. Overall, majority hit. There were some duds like these, so we apologize for the duds.
You just say majorly?
Yeah, majorly. It's a
It's
word.
not a word.
Look it up.
I'm not.
I'm gonna
looking
go
it
with.
up.
I'm going with it's a word, and that's all. I'm sticking to it. That's all I gotta say.
All right. Not looking it up, and I'm also moving on. Let's get into our waiver ads. All right, BroMob. Well, you might be thinking to yourself, man, well, before this week, man, there's really nobody on the waivers that I want, man. There's just no talent out there. You were very wrong. And
Wrong.
you be wrong. And
You
the
is
reason
wrong.
is there's a lot of talent out there. We'll start off with number one here. Rookie Marquise Brown, who's only owned in 28% of ESPN leagues, which, by the way, this is our highest owned player we're about to mention. The guy went off. I mean, we already talked about how good Lamar Jackson looked. Part of that was because Marquise Brown was just constantly open behind the defensive backs there. Brian, I don't remember if this stat right here, if I'm reading it right, but it sounds like Marquise Brown was only out there for 14 total snaps, and he was able to do his damage on that. That's incredible. Marquise Brown, absolute steal. If he's on your waivers, which he should be, go out there and put in the highest. I'm not gonna say put in like 50 fab, but throw in some money for him. Get this guy.
Yeah, Chad. While we're on that subject, and I don't want to spend too much time here. What is a max fab spend? You get $100. Let's just say standard. Is 10% of fab, 15% of fab? Is that about max?
I'll be honest, Brian. So I'm looking at Marquise Brown, and I'm thinking this is the number one wideout on a team that's going to be electric, right? And he's an electric player. I'm willing to put 20%, so 20 fab into this. And BroMob, just for a quick reminder, fab is a waiver wire system. In case you guys are wondering, it's a waiver wire system in which you have 100, they call it blind bid dollars. They're fake dollars that get thrown in, or sometimes real, but fake dollars that get put in, and you just basically bid on players blindly. And if you win, you get the player. Instead of having a priority list where it just kind of randomizes and it's based off a worse record, this kind of helps even the score there. So Marquise Brown, I'd be willing to put up 20 fab for him.
Yeah, so fab evens the playing field simply. But I'm with you. I think 20 is definitely the most. I would probably be willing to go as high as 15. So BroMob, whatever you feel is comfortable. You got to manage this throughout the year. There's a lot of fantasy football still to play, and then you got fantasy playoffs too, and we expect you to be there. So you want to manage your fab through the playoffs as well, because once you're out, you're out. Next on this list is John Ross, wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals, Chad. Owned in 4.8% of ESPN leagues, and man, did he have himself a game, Chad. So I just want to point out, AJ Green is probably a huge reason why his stats were elevated and probably will be elevated. Maybe not to this extent, but you definitely want to realize that he's going to be valuable while AJ Green's gone. 7 catches, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, 31.8 fantasy points. Not a bad day.
No, not a bad day at all. And another person, we've already mentioned him too, who didn't have a bad day, Malcolm Brown with the Los Angeles Rams. So he got that split backfield with Todd Gurley, but the biggest thing with him, he got the touchdowns. 2 touchdowns on the day, and he's only owned in 6.5% in ESPN leagues, which is ridiculous because Darrell Henderson is owned in much more percentage of leagues. And he's the one that everybody thought was going to be the backup. And in reality, it's Malcolm Brown. So it makes sense that they sat him during the preseason to keep him healthy. And I definitely see a split backfield going forward here in LA.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick comment on the John Ross piece I forgot to add was I'd probably be willing to spend about $5 in fab, just because once AJ Green comes back, I think it limits his upside abilities. Chad, are you with me on that? Do you think you'd spend a little bit more?
I think that I would be willing to go as high as 10, just mainly due to the fact that I could definitely see him winning you some games early on in the season. And wins are wins, right? I'll pay some fab for some wins. So I'd probably go as high as 10 for John Ross, but you know what? If I want to go ahead and split it down the middle at 7, that's probably where I'm comfortable going.
Okay. What about Malcolm Brown?
Malcolm Brown, I'm going higher because it's a running back, right? Your running back depth is always the most important, and it looks like he's definitely sharing the backfield with Gurley. And if Gurley gets injured, which is it could happen with that knee, Malcolm Brown's in a almost monopolized position there. So Malcolm Brown, I'd be willing to go as high as 25, maybe even 30. I'm going to stay away from the 30, but I'll definitely be bidding 25 on him.
Yeah, 25 is still that's expensive for me. I think for a backup running back what he is right now. Timeshare, yeah, I get it. I'm probably going as high as 15, maybe 20 at most. Obviously judge your team and whatever your team's need are. If you have a high need for a running back, maybe you spend a little bit more. Just realize kind of where you're at and what your needs are. Next on this list is Terry McLaurin, wide receiver for the Washington Redskins, and man, he came too. Chad, this is your dude. You've been talking about him all offseason. 5 catches, 125 yards, and a touchdown. And man, he was working people out there on that field. Owned in 7.3% of ESPN leagues, and I would say as far as fab goes, if you're good at wide receiver, I would spend as much as 5, maybe 7 on him. If you're short at wide out, I would maybe go as high as 15.
He's an explosive wide receiver and the number 1 on an offense in the league, so he's definitely worth rostering. Pick him up if you can. Going on to that, another wide receiver who produced very well, Denny Amendola, who was only owned in 3.4% of ESPN leagues, had a huge week. Matthew Stafford looked his way quite a bit, and it actually made me kind of think about Golden Tate and that connection that he had with Tate. Stafford's always kind of like that middle of the field player, somebody like a Golden Tate. So Denny Amendola, he's going to command the middle of the field so long as he can stay healthy. It looks like he'll have a pretty high target share in this offense.
Yeah, and I think you can get him for cheaper, Chad. I think a lot of people are going to be focused on some of these other names. So I would say maybe 2 to 5 fantasy fab on him. Owned in 3.4% of ESPN leagues. He had a game, man. A lot of targets. 7 catches for over 100 yards and a touchdown. Not a bad week. It is the Cardinals defense, though.
Yeah, very true. I was about to say the one thing we want to focus on here is the fact that the Cardinals defense is absolute trash. So that could be a contributing factor as well. So BroMob,
Yep.
Speaking of trash, some of our fantasy players this week put up hot trash for us, and we're probably a little angry about it. So I'm going to get into what we call our BroMob Hold'em picks for the week. And one of them, Devonta Freeman. So he had a terrible week, but BroMob, it's not going to happen like that going forward. They were in a negative game script really quick in this game, and just the rushing attack was getting stopped back left and right. So Devonta Freeman should see a lot more fantasy-friendly weeks coming forward, and you shouldn't panic on him just yet.
Yeah, I agree completely. Another guy you don't want to panic on is Nick Chubb. Yeah, he had a rough week 1, though he was given the ball. He just didn't have the touchdown, but he definitely has a monopoly on the rushing attacks, so you do not want to be even considering dropping Nick Chubb or trying to move him at this point. Hang on to him. Better days to come.
Yeah, he had 2 opportunities to score in that game, so he was really close to having a huge fantasy week for you all. So another player who's bound to have better games going forward, Brandon Cooks. You know what? He was targeted deep a couple times, and this is his game. He can definitely put up these duds for you, but at the same time, he's getting target share of the offense, and the targets that he's getting are high value targets. So if he catches one, he's taking it to the yard, right? So these are the types of plays that you want with a player like this. Brandon Cooks, don't panic on him yet. Much better games coming forward.
Yeah, and originally we also had Darius Geis on this list, Chad. I'm a little split on this. Look, I just think he's an injury-prone guy. He's always going to have injury issues, and I just don't want guys like this on my squad. It sucks is people probably used decent draft capital to draft this dude. What do you do here? I mean, he had a bad week. Yeah, it was a good rush defense, but now he's hurt. I mean, what do you think? I'm almost to the point where you cut him. I think I just don't want to hold a guy that's going to be injured on my. If you have an IR spot, that's the route to go. But if you don't, what do you do?
So it's sounding like he could be missing a good chunk, if not most of the season. So I'm definitely going to be dropping him here. Especially if the news comes out that that's the case, because he's getting MRIs and stuff right now to confirm it. But he's definitely a drop at that point. So we had this here before the news came out, so that's what that is. Tevin Coleman, definitely hold on to him for now. He's got a designated high ankle sprain, so we're talking a pretty lengthy injury. But once he comes back, he had a really high target share in this offense when he was healthy in that game. He was getting used on the ground and in the passing game. So when Tevin Coleman comes back, he should have a pretty good role on this offense. So hold on to this. It's going to hurt, but when he comes back, you got yourself a really good point maker.
Yeah, point maker.
Point maker.
Point blouses. All right, Darrell Henderson, running back for the Rams. We just talked about him a little bit ago. Basically non-existent this week. It was the Malcolm Brown show. Look, I think I'm in the position of I want to see one more week. I'm going to hold on to him and then make a decision, but not what you want to see or wanted to see for this guy in week 1. We'll see what happens week 2. But if I have the same fantasy output from him week 2, I'm out.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely want to wait and see. If he gets used more in the passing game this coming week, that's a definite hold at that point. Just running backs that get used in the passing game, you should always have them on your roster, but a little scary. Wait it out 1 week here. So, and to the end it all here, Hold'em players, Kenyon Drake and Kalen Ballage, hold on to both of these guys. Though I said it looked ugly, and it might look ugly going forward, things could turn around for them. They were running up against one of the nastiest rush defenses in the league against Baltimore. They're going to have much brighter pastures ahead of them. Kenyon Drake is still a pretty electric player, and Kalen Ballage looked pretty good during the preseason as well. So there's opportunity here, but hold on to him. Keep him on your bench. Preferably don't play him, and just wait and see. All right, Brian, let's get into our final segment and play a game. All right, this week we're going to be playing Keep, Trade, Cut. And BroMob, we're going to do this a little differently than what maybe some of you have seen before. Instead of giving out 3 player names and saying which one we're going to keep, which one we're going to trade, which one we're going to cut, we didn't see any value in that, right? So because preferably you want to keep all 3 of them, or you want to try and trade one of the players. You don't want to cut somebody. So we thought what would be very beneficial for you is to just come up with a player and say which one would we do with that player. So, Brian, I'm going to start it off first. Eric Ebron. Keep, trade, or cut?
Yeah, I think I'm at the point where I might cut Ebron. I just think his lack of use in the game, and I think his value fell through the floor when Luck retired. So I may keep him one more week just to be safe and then move on from him. But man, his value fell deep.
Yeah, I agree. He's in the cut column for me as well. I was already hesitant coming into the game with Eric Ebron, and seeing that he just wasn't hardly even used, I want no part of it. So definite cut for me as well. Michael Gallup, keep, trade, or cut?
So if I have Michael Gallup, I'm going to try to trade him right now. I think this is about the highest value that you can get for him. The Giants secondary is a dumpster fire. They're terrible. The game script was perfect for Michael Gallup to shine, for the whole Cowboys offense to shine. All 3 wide receivers for the Cowboys, Cobb, Gallup, and Amari Cooper, had great games from a fantasy output standpoint. I think everybody's going to be high on these players right now. I would try to maybe trade him along with somebody else, tie him together with another player and see if you can't upgrade him.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I was leaning towards keep at first because that offense looks explosive and Dak's going to throw the ball all over the place. But I'm with you. I think this is going to be the highest his value is going to be for most of the season. I would definitely be trying to trade him right now for whatever you can get. Try to package him with somebody to get a running back, or just upgrade at the wide receiver position. Just try to get a starter for him if you can.
Yeah.
Damian Williams, keep, trade, or cut?
Yeah, so you're going to try to trade him if you get value for him, but you almost have to keep him now at this point and hope that maybe McCoy goes down and he becomes the guy. But not an impressive week 1 whatsoever. I don't know about you, Chad.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to keep him because if you trade him now, you're just getting no value for him. You're pretty much gonna get pennies on the dollar with him. So you're holding on to him in the hopes that there's some sort of injury somewhere that opens the game up for him a little bit. But if that doesn't happen, Damian Williams is not looking too shabby. And if we revisited this in 3 weeks from now, the answer could be very different. So, and to finish our game off here, Brian, David Johnson, keep, trade, or cut.
So this one's tough for me because I love this guy. But if I have David Johnson in the league and I watched the Cardinals game, I'm trying to trade him because I feel like that offensive line is awful. He really didn't get his fantasy output till the fourth quarter when the Cardinals came back. It was 3 quarters of just a snooze fest. I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of volatility this year as that offense really tries to figure itself out. And so I would try to capitalize on a good fantasy output for David Johnson week 1. That could be a very volatile season for him. I think he still finishes as a top 12, maybe a top 14 running back on the season. But my fear is that he doesn't really do what we hope he does, because I think the team's going to utilize Fitz more in the passing game than David Johnson, it seems like. So I'm going to try to maybe add David Johnson with another player, see if I can't upgrade him. Hope that the guy that I'm trading him to didn't really actually watch the Cardinals game, that he just sees the fantasy points.
Yeah, that's definitely a hope there. I'm going to keep him, Brian. And here's my reasoning. So I want to believe that the second team that I saw there, the fourth quarter Cardinals, is a little bit closer to what they're going to be. I'm not saying that's their exact team, but I definitely think they're much better than what the first 3 quarters of that team was. We know during the preseason they were playing a much more watered down offense, so that defenses wouldn't see what they had going on. And I think the team just came out and they were rusty for quite some time. What you got to do kind of worry about is the fact that Kyler Murray, he had a lot of balls batted down at the line of scrimmage there. His height's going to play into a factor into games. And because of that, he might not see players down the field as good as other players. And David Johnson's going to be wide open over on the sides at time to time, and he'll definitely see him. So I'm holding on to David Johnson. I think he's going to have a pretty good fantasy season going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but don't you think that maybe both of those offenses are what you're getting? That you're going to have a mixed bag throughout the season, and that creates a lot of volatility and points from a fantasy output?
Hey, I'll take volatility if it's scoring me 20-plus points from a running back. So I'll take that. So
I get it.
All right, BroMob. Well, that's going to do it for this show today. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday and every Wednesday to stay up to date on the fantasy football world and to gather any insights on how to dominate your fantasy football league.
Yeah, BroMob. And also be sure to get over to keytothetitle.com so that you can be involved in all of our start sits, our bust of the week, our streaming options for the week. It's a free website. Go to keytothetitle.com, create a username. It's completely free, and be involved in that advice. Also get over to fantasyfootballbros.com for all kinds of articles and stuff like that as well.
If you're not on Apple Podcasts, we're also on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcast, wherever it is that you listen, literally everywhere. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at FF Bros Podcast, and be sure to search that hashtag BroMob for any kind of news updates. See you tomorrow, BroMob.
Bye, everybody.